Dr. Carter, you and your whole staff really appreciate y'all having us tonight. If you came in, you probably saw a few of them, but let's give a round of applause to our law enforcement, our men and women in law enforcement who have really done a good job. If you're a local elected official, state elected official, county official, raise your hand. I want to recognize you. Y'all do an incredible work for us and the Republican Party. Really appreciate y'all being here, including a new one that's going to say the pledge tonight. We'll bring him out here in a minute, Representative Lucas Atkinson. And then the final thing that I want to talk about just before we begin is, look, a primary is like a dysfunctional squabble sometimes at Thanksgiving. It can get a little uncomfortable. I want this to be a time that candidates can express themselves. You might be undecided. Great. You might have already picked your horse. Great. Let's let the candidates answer for themselves. If you've already picked, they're probably not changing your mind, and that's okay. And if we decide to get a little rowdy, that's fine. That's your First Amendment. But we also have alligators out back for you that will take care of you. We brought them from Horry County. They're huge. They're mean. So let's keep things a little bit civil tonight and have a good discussion. The president called me last week, which is always weird, by the way, to me. Like a boy from Surfside Beach gets a call, and you just, you kind of jump, and you're like, oh my gosh, the president's calling. It's worse when you miss the call, which I've done before too, Mark. And we were talking about a few things, and as he was talking, he had a cabinet secretary over here, and he said, I'm on the phone with Congressman Fry, okay? He beat that Trump impeacher, Tom Rice. You remember that? We beat him like 60 points. I won South Carolina 3 times. I love the people of South Carolina. So he loves South Carolina. And I'm going to send him a clip of this later. So let's give him a round of applause and tell him what you think about him and his leadership for America. That's good. That was also a test to see if we had any Democrats in the audience, but I think we're pretty safe. South Carolina's facing a pivotal moment in our state. We have not had, our governor has been governor for 10 years. He's done a fantastic job. We have not had an open seat for governor in 16 years. Maybe we've fallen out of a muscle memory on what this looks like on a governor's race in South Carolina. The political terrain has certainly changed. The state has changed. And all of these men and women who are running, there are some critical decisions that will define where South Carolina goes in the future. And that's why I think tonight's forum is so critically important. As we turn that page into the next chapter for South Carolina, it was important for me to provide that space, one, that you could meet the candidates outside, two, that you could listen to them and hear their vision for South Carolina, their qualifications to lead. We weren't looking for another debate, right? They're going to have a ton of those. We wanted like a real conversation, a conversation with people so you get a sense of who these candidates are, and one by one discuss the issues I think that matter most to you. And so I think tonight's going to be a lot of fun. It's not going to be stuffy. We don't want stuffy. We don't want any of that. We want a relaxed conversation, specifics, some good discussion on where we are and where we can head. There's no better place to have that conversation, in my mind, than right here in Florence, South Carolina. What do y'all think about that? Y'all like Florence? The pearl of the PD, I call it, but it really is. If you look at the local Republican Party here, Mike Page, I see you down on the front, they do incredible work. This is what grassroots is supposed to look like. They phone bank, they knock on doors, they apply bumper stickers to your car, and they even have Windex that they supply to all their workers. They really work their butts off. And I represent 8 counties, and they all work hard in different ways, but the Florence County Republican Party, I think, is a model for how grassroots conservatism and activism should be. So Mike, to the whole team at the Florence GOP, thank you all for what you do. It's not easy. And I say that because I came from the party before I ever ran for public office. So been there, done that, never got the t-shirt, but it worked out okay. So looking ahead, our governor is going to have to tackle some pretty major issues, right? Whether it's advancing a proposal to eliminate the state's income tax. What do y'all think about that? Y'all like that? Safeguarding our elections. We want paper ballots, people, okay? Making meaningful investment in transportation and infrastructure. Those are big core functions of government. You know, there's a lot of junk that government should fund or funds but shouldn't fund. Roads is not one of them. Roads is actually a core function of government, something that we should fund. Don't you agree with that, Mr. Page? So these are serious challenges that demand serious leadership, and I'm looking forward to seeing y'all learn about these candidates, hear from them, staying engaged, seeing what they're going to do to shape the future of our great state. We're looking forward to the conversation, and I'm grateful for all of you for being here tonight. Let's have some fun. And now I'm going to welcome to the stage Chris Smith of the Florence Baptist Association to lead us in prayer.
Let's pray together. Father God, we come today just thanking you for a glorious day that you've blessed us with. We thank you for the opportunities that you've provided today, including this one tonight. We thank you, Lord, for the great state that we live in, for the country that we're a part of, and we realize that we can have this event because of such a free land that we live in. Lord, we want to lift up each of the candidates tonight. We thank you, Father, for their service. We thank you for the scrutiny and the rigor that they submit themselves to in a political campaign. And we ask that they would have clear minds and clear speech tonight, that they might be able to articulate their thoughts and their ideas, that we might learn. And Father, we thank you for each of them. And Lord, we just ask now that you would help us to be enthusiastic and yet with decorum. And again, thank you for the opportunity that we have for such an event as this tonight. Lord, we thank you most of all for this past Sunday that we've celebrated the resurrection, and we make this prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. You didn't know that you were coming to a roast today, did you? The next speaker decided that socialism wasn't working for his party anymore. And he is a state house member. We call him a dino. We have rhinos in the Republican Party. There's a few dinos left in the Democrat Party. And he switched parties from Democrat to Republican, representing Marion County and parts of Horry. My good friend, he votes pretty dang conservative. We're happy to have him. My good friend, Representative Lucas Atkinson, for the Pledge of Allegiance. Come on, Lucas.
Thank you, Congressman. If y'all would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Aren't we happy to have him in the Republican Party? That's awesome, right? Welcome. Welcome. All right, so let's get started tonight. So first up, we've got State Senator Josh Kimbrell. Let's give Josh Kimbrell a round of applause as we welcome him to the stage.
I'm coming with you, right? How are you?
All right, here we go. We'll get set up here in a minute. Welcome. How was the drive?
Well, I was in Horry County earlier, so it's not as bad coming back from Myrtle Beach as it is going to be going to Spartanburg tonight. That's okay.
It can be a little bit challenging sometimes, and
we're doing better on the roads, Congressman. We're doing better on the roads. I mean, Senator Rickenbaugh and I are working hard on the roads down here, right?
Yeah, we got Senator Rickenbaugh up front. Did y'all like Senator Rickenbaugh here in Florence County? He's pretty good. He's doing a pretty good job, I think.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Mikey's not voting for me, but he's mostly voted with me.
That's fine.
Okay,
That's fine.
We'll go with that.
Yeah, like I said, it's a Thanksgiving political fight a little bit, and you're friends at the end of it, and you'll get ready for Christmas, right?
He and I haven't shot at each other. I'm not sure on April 21st, other people won't shoot at each other, but Mike and I are friends, so.
That's good. Well, I appreciate you being here. I'm glad you were at the beach a little bit. Hopefully you spent a lot of money.
As much as I possibly
Okay,
could.
good. With a state house salary, right?
Yeah, all $10,000 of it. I love when people say how much we're getting paid and this 80% pay increase. I'm like, yeah, we went from fry cook to assistant manager at McDonald's. I mean, it's not a real big increase.
So I got to ask. So obviously, President Trump's the leader of our party, and in my estimation, is one of the most impactful presidents that we've had in quite some time. Are you seeking the president? I'm not asking everybody the same question. Are you seeking the president's endorsement? Would you like it? And why should Republican voters, and particularly the president too, choose you and think that you represent the America First platform?
I mean, look, let's just reverse the order a little bit. Would I want his endorsement? Sure, but at the end of the day, whether he endorses me or not, I mean, I'm not one of these people that feels that I deserve this or that. I mean, we're all just doing the best we can. I think he is. The two best presidents in my lifetime have been Donald John Trump and Ronald Wilson Reagan. And I think both of those are made of the same mold. They were transformative. They were willing to fight back. They were willing to upend the norms in Washington and frankly say, okay, just because it's been done this way all of our lives doesn't mean we always have to just follow the same rote memorization. And so in terms of Columbia, by the way, I mean, I really liked it when you were in Columbia. I love that you're in Washington, but you went and fried some rice and left us and went to Washington. It's not as much fun when you're in D.C. now. I mean, you're doing a great job, but man, I liked coming over to the State House. The Senate's still in good shape because I'm still there.
Yeah, that's good.
And Mike.
That's good. And Mike.
Lesser Mike, but but I mean, look, I think that you have to be able to essentially upend the apple cart, change the rules if you're going to make any real, meaningful change. We're not here to manage decline of a great nation. The president has said, forget that. I'm going to not only not manage decline, rebuild the country's greatness, and I think that's transformative. And whether he endorses me or whomever he endorses, he is one of the single greatest presidents of our lifetime.
I agree with that, and I think I think you made a point, and I treat public service like this. You're there for a limited time. You don't know when that may end, and you're there to be as impactful as you can today. Not tomorrow, not next year, not next week. You need to be impactful today, and sometimes you got to upend the apple cart. Washington, Columbia, sometimes it resists change, right? It resists something that's different than what it's always done, and so. Having somebody like President Trump, who sometimes is like a bull in a china shop, and we like that and we want it, but he's also put deals together, and he wants to, I think, leave a strong legacy. What do you think is one action, if you had to think of President Trump in his, in both terms, but one action that really has stood out to you that defines his leadership?
Well, I mean, look, if you think about even what's happening in Iran right now, right? I mean, it's the whole idea of the art of the deal. He wrote the book, told everybody they should read it, and I think they should. You go for the fences, you aim for the fences, and you land somewhere on third base, you're still okay. I go back even to the first term with the Abraham Accords. Now, look, this isn't popular in some circles, but I don't care. For me, I believe as a Christian that ultimately my allegiance is to Jesus Christ, but at the same time, the United States has a great relationship with Israel, and I am not going to throw the Israelis under the bus on behalf of like the Qataris. And so the president standing with Israel as aggressively as he has, and standing not only for Israel, I care more about our security than Israel's, but they're linked. And you go back to the first term of the Abraham Accords. If you think about what's happening in Iran right now, I believe this is going to be wrapped up in the next few days. I think we're pretty close to the end of this because, I mean, we've decimated their ability to resist. But the groundwork was laid by the Abraham Accords in the first term. I mean, every president since Jimmy Carter said they were going to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Nobody did it until Donald Trump did. Then he managed to get every major Gulf country, the Saudis are almost there too, to agree to the Abraham Accords to make peace with Israel. What other American president's ever done that except for fighting with the bully pulpit, carrying a big stick, speak softly, carry a big stick like Teddy Roosevelt said? I think you aim for the fences, you put interesting things on Facebook or Twitter at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you make a deal. I think it's been incredibly successful.
That's true. He doesn't sleep.
I wake up at 2 a.m. just to read his Twitter feed. I mean,
me too. He doesn't sleep. You'll see his tweets at 2. You see him at 5 or 6 in the morning. When I missed the call, Mark, from the president, it was at 6 in the morning, and I don't talk to anybody at 6 in the morning, okay? Like, nobody.
Unless it's the commander-in-chief.
But I missed it, and then I called him. Thankfully, he picked up, and I wasn't in the doghouse. But speaking of his just kind of style of leadership and the way that he treats things, obviously, I think all of you are kind of running on some reform. You want to fix some aspects of state government. What do you think, if you look at South Carolina, what is the biggest glaring thing that you would like to fix from a reform standpoint in our state government?
Well, for starters, look, I respect everybody running. I mean, I've tried to be the not nasty candidate. We're going to see how that goes. I'm almost not be nasty. We'll see what happens. But, I mean, there's the old expression, there's politics, then there's South Carolina politics. Any of y'all been around this long enough knows ours are kind of a blood sport, if you haven't noticed. So I'm trying not to draw first blood. I'm not saying I won't draw last blood, but I'm saying I'm not going to draw first blood. My attitude has been, my approach is different. If you look at every governor since Carroll Campbell, let's go back to when you and I were both roughly contemporaries here on age. So Governor Campbell was really the Republican. He was like the South kind of Reagan, right? So you had Reagan flips the country Republican. Campbell did largely the same thing. And the way he did it was work with the legislature. He didn't roll over to the legislature. He just didn't try to bully them. And I worked in the Sanford administration. For those of you who watched the debate who understood the reference, probably not get invited to Mark's Christmas party. But I said I worked in the Sanford administration before the hiking trip to Argentina. But I worked in the Sanford administration briefly. I was on Governor Haley's reelection campaign in 2014. And then, of course, we've all served, those of us that have served in the House or the Senate, including you, Congressman, have been there under Governor McMaster. There's two extremes. Sanford, to a large degree, Haley, to a pretty large degree, decided, let's just go roll the legislature. We're going to bully them, tell them what we're going to do, and if they don't do it, we're just going to try to go to their districts and plow them over. That didn't work very well. I mean, they didn't pass most of their agenda. And the McMaster administration has largely been, send me a bill, I'll sign it. Okay. Neither one of those is the right approach to this. It's basically, you got to quarterback it. You don't want to go bullying folks. You need relationships. You got to go and work with people you know, build friendships. But at the same time, quarterback it and try to push an agenda. My approach has been completely different than almost anything I've heard in the last few election cycles. Let's go quarterback it. I will push an agenda, but I want to work with the House and the Senate. I'm not going to be rolled by them, but I'm not going to roll them. It's got to be a Team South Carolina approach if you're going to do anything. The last government did that was Campbell.
That's good answer to that. I appreciate that. What do you, speaking of just kind of taxes, if you will, I mean, we're Republicans. We like low taxes. There's a lot of talk right now about the income tax, other taxes. What plan, if any, do you have on income tax relief or reform in South Carolina, and how would you go about implementing it?
Well, the good thing is I can actually say go read the bill that I introduced. And you were in the House, the State House, before you got, you fried the rice and went to Washington and left us. But
we fried it good. We fried it so good.
Over and over. I almost did a Trump impersonation myself tonight, but he's so much better. I wanted to say, Russell, what a guy. Very special guy. Not gay, but what a guy. But I mean, the point would be, I introduced a bill in 2022 that did that. I mean, so everybody's talking about plans. I did that. In 2022, I introduced a bill that would eliminate the income tax, not in 5 years, not in 4 years, not in 2 years, in 13 months. And of course, we didn't ultimately get to pass that, but I worked with Senator Peeler, Harvey Peeler, the chairman of the Finance Committee, my neighboring senator in the upstate, and we didn't get the full cut. We got to a $2 billion cut 2 years ago because of it. So what I've said is close the loopholes on the sales tax. I mean, how many of y'all play golf? Go ahead and raise your hands. Don't lie. Okay. How many of you play golf well? One hand in the back. You're confident. I like you. Maybe you need to be on my captain's choice team. But the point is, if you play golf at a private course, you will not pay sales taxes. If you play golf at a public course, you will pay sales taxes. There's more holes in the sales tax code in South Carolina than Swiss cheese. If we just go to a uniform base, you can close those loopholes, make it fair, and get rid of the income tax completely overnight. So if you want to look at it, go to scstatehouse.gov, go to your Senate profiles, go to primary sponsored bills 2021, 2022, read the bill. I don't have to tell you what I did. You can read it.
Great. Talking about roads, we talked about this earlier, core function of government. There's been a lot of discussion this year in the General Assembly about reforming DOT. Obviously, our state is growing faster per capita than any other state in the country. How do we prioritize roads in a way, whether it's reform, whether it's funding? What would be your approach to that as governor?
Well, Senate Bill 801 is a bill that I've co-sponsored. A number of us have. And essentially, you've got to, first off, I will not raise any gas taxes. In fact, I've introduced a suspension of gas tax with a few other colleagues right now until the Strait of Hormuz is opened. By the way, the president had interesting things to say about that on Easter morning, right? So until that's open, I'm certainly not willing to raise the gas tax. I think we should probably suspend it for a bit. That being said, Congressman, my approach would be a public-private partnership. We've got billions of dollars in South Carolina right now. Since I've been in the Senate in 2021, I took office, November 2020, we've increased by billions of dollars the funding. It's not a money question. It's a contractor question. We don't have enough contractors, so we're going to have to revisit the idea of how we approve and allow these contractors to go work the bonding and insurance requirements. Additionally, I am all for allowing public-private partnerships. So what I have said is take a Florida-style model. I don't want toll roads that are mandatory, but I have no problem for there being a toll road you can voluntarily take. If those of you who go to the upstate regularly, for me to go to Greenville to Spartanburg on a Friday night is kind of like the threshold to hell. And so if they offered me a Palmetto Pass, it won't be called Sun Pass, but probably a Palmetto Pass, I'd buy it and say, let a private company build that extra lane. A lot of those like me who are impatient will go to that lane. That makes the other 3 lanes less crowded. We're paying for it with private money. Let them collect the fee. Your taxes don't go up. We increase the roads. We increase efficiency. And by the way, sorry, Congressman, decouple South Carolina from the approval of the federal government for every project we got to have. So I don't care what the U.S. EPA says. I want South Carolina to license its own road projects, expedite the process on getting these roads paved and planned, and then let private companies come in and help us.
Maybe that is a good segue into the next one. Obviously, you were at the Grand Strand today. There's a lot of talk right now about I-73 and its future. It's an interstate that runs from roughly Michigan to the Grand Strand. It's proposed, it's permitted. Horry County recently has money that I think $450 million that's put aside for that project. Y'all just decided to rename.
What do we call it? What do we name it, Congressman?
The President Donald J. Trump.
Donald John Trump Freeway.
Y'all like that, by the way? Y'all think that's a good idea? So it's been permitted. It survived legal challenge. As governor, looking not just the next 4 years, but the next 8, how would you push that along? And what would be the tools in your toolbox to use to make that proposal, that permitted proposal, a reality?
I mean, look, the reality is in Horry County, and I know we're a few miles away, but y'all go down there as much as I do, I'm sure, or more. We have a serious problem there. That's the #1 tourist attraction in the state. And there's no direct accessible way from your #1 market, which is Spartanburg, Greenville, which is where I am. So we've got to do something about that. I mean, for starters, it'll be cheaper to pave the new interstate than the cost of prosecuting the people for road rage on the stoplights on 501. You can clap for that. That's okay. I almost committed it today. It'll be cheaper to pay for I-73 than to pay for prosecuting road rage. So we've got to do something about it. I mean, it's the #1 market in the state. It's 10 million, 14 million tourists a year. We got to do better on that. We got to get that number up. But the point is, that is how, even back to my tax plan, Congressman, I plan on paying for it off Horry County. I mean, y'all keep bringing them in. So the express lane of I-73 makes my tax plan possible. So yeah, we'll pave it so y'all can pay the tax package.
We like to hear that. That's good. All right. What do you think about that? That's pretty good, huh? Let's shift focus a little bit to education. Obviously, you've been in the legislature. You've seen significant reforms on education, empowering parents, having parents have a role in their child's education. What should be the next step for South Carolina on education reform for our students and their parents?
I mean, look, I think one of the interesting things about the last 20 plus years, I mean, I started getting involved in statewide politics and working in campaigns in 2002. And I remember that was the year Sanford got elected governor the first time, beat Hodges. And in 2003, people started talking about school choice. So today, before I went to Myrtle Beach and then came here, I went by Palmetto Promise Institute and joined others in signing a universal school choice pledge that we would have absolute universal school choice in South Carolina. I believe that money should follow the child. And one of the things we've done, in my opinion, wrong over the years, it's not either or. I think we've allowed a false choice, frankly. People say you're for public schools or you're not. You're for private schools or you're not. I'm for both. I mean, I went from kindergarten through 12th grade at a public school. My kids split their childhood between a private Christian school and a public school. You can support all of the above, and I believe money should be backpacked with the child. Wherever you choose to send your kid, that money that you pay in taxes should follow that child to whatever school he or she needs to go to, because God created us all differently and uniquely, and no two people learn the same, and we need an all-of-the-above approach that helps the kids, protects parental rights, and ultimately will raise salaries for our teachers.
That's good. Good. One of the things, obviously, you would represent a whole state. There's urban centers, there's suburban America, but there's also rural South Carolina. And I always worry that opportunities that are in rural parts of the state are diminishing or could diminish. So how do we in South Carolina, from a state government perspective, rehabilitate rural America, rural South Carolina in a way that I think maybe is a renaissance, right? People want that Americana, they want that, and that's why they choose to move to rural South Carolina. But how do we provide those opportunities in rural parts of the state that are also afforded in population centers like Myrtle Beach, Florence, Columbia, Greenville, Spartanburg?
Well, and this is a national problem too, right? It's the idea of urbanization and that we lose what's relevant to us as individuals. There's a book written in the year 2000. It's been a few years ago. I don't remember the author's name. I read it, but I don't remember his name. He's a Harvard sociologist. It's called Bowling Alone. He used two statistic points that I thought were really interesting. One is, he said, more people go bowling, this is in 2000, he said more people go bowling in 2000 than in 1960. But fewer people go bowling in leagues in 2000 than 1960. In other words, people are becoming more isolated. I call it anti-social media quite often. We've lost contact with our neighbors. I'm from a town that was 3,000 people in Inman. When I was in Newberry last week, I thought I could live here. I could live here in Florence too if Rick and Ball sell me a car. But I mean, the point is, you need these small towns. The small towns is the heart of the country. And this idea that we're going to pave it over is dangerous. So I worked with Congress or Senator Davis of Beaufort. We introduced concurrency legislation. I'm on the subcommittee to say we're not going to allow growth to outpace our infrastructure. So I'll keep this as short as I can. In Spartanburg County, we had, in my district, the county council approved 450 new houses on what was essentially a farm road. Okay, it's insane. They didn't wait for the infrastructure to keep up with it. You had 2 or 3 cars trying to cram down a road that was big enough for a tractor. We have got to, I'm not against growth. I'm not against people using their private property rights. We cannot allow infrastructure to be completely outpaced by growth to the point where the roads can't handle it, the schools can't handle it, and more importantly, the culture can't handle it. So I will tell you this, if you're not from South Carolina originally and you came here because you love our values and you're here tonight for a Republican event, welcome. If you're not, please leave. I'll buy you a ticket.
Speaking of, let's go to a lightning round real quick. Y'all want to do a lightning round? What do y'all think about that?
I'm a little nervous. I'm the first one to get
lightning round. No, these are easy. All right. So, what's your favorite caffeinated beverage of choice?
The dark roast, the cold roast coffee, the nitro brew.
Oh yeah, that's like battery acid, my friend.
Kind of is. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of is.
All right. If you're ordering barbecue, are you doing mustard or vinegar based?
Mustard.
Oh, all right.
Somebody clap for that. Y'all are in Florence.
Yeah, we're clapping for that. All right, this might like sink or swim somebody. I don't know. Gamecocks or Tigers?
Both. I'm South Carolina. Not the Wisconsin Badgers or anything. You know?
What's your favorite vacation spot in South Carolina?
Probably Pawleys Island.
All right. I think there's a lot of people here. There's like a pipeline, by the way.
Well, I had family who had a place there. So I actually have 2 relatives, I said this in debate, were buried in my district who fought the revolution, but everybody in my family's from the state. And my favorite aunt, who, by the way, love her if she's watching. God, I love you. Forgive me. The only Republican she's ever voted for is maybe me, and I'm not totally sure it was me. But she had a house at the beach, so I always loved her. Went to Pawleys.
Yeah, there's a pipeline from the PD to Pawleys Island. I'm convinced. it's like a hidden train that we don't know about yet. Last question. You win governor, hypothetically. What is your first act as governor?
Find a way to get you back from Washington.
All right,
so
deal.
We'll work on that, okay? And by the way, even whether I'm governor or not, I want to be governor, so y'all don't forget, I'm not up here to play games. I want to win. But this is a great congressman, so whatever you do, vote for this guy. So,
y'all, I appreciate the discussion tonight with Senator Kimbrell. He's doing a good job in the Senate. Y'all give him a round of applause. Appreciate you being here tonight at the forum.
Congressman, thank you.
All right, guys, how was that? Pretty good? Y'all like that? All right, so next up, where's my list? My gosh, my list. I don't even know who's up. I can't even see back there. Who's that? Oh, my gosh. Oh, it's our Attorney General, Alan Wilson. Y'all give him a round of applause. I'm going to have to just guess. I think we've got the same suit on, roughly. Come on, have a seat. Have a seat. But do you have the socks? All right, this is...
No, don't embarrass me. I'm wearing black socks with a blue suit.
Well, thanks for being here.
It's great to be here. How are we doing, Florence?
All right, so I asked Senator Kimbrell this earlier, just talking about the president, and would you like his endorsement? Are you seeking his endorsement? Tell me about what this looks like from a candidate's perspective in going forward into this race.
Well, first off, anybody who says they don't want Donald Trump's endorsement is crazy. Of course you want Donald Trump's endorsement, but I think the people of South Carolina are smarter than that. They're not going to elect a governor because you do or don't have Donald Trump's endorsement. They're going to elect a governor because of what they believe that governor can do for our state of South Carolina.
Good question. So when you think about President Trump, obviously you've worked with him in your capacity as Attorney General. You've seen him work in Trump 1 and now Trump 2. What is one thing in your mind that sticks out when you think about his leadership that you can point to and say that was true leadership that the president exhibited? What's one thing, like the biggest thing in your mind?
I mean, it's hard to put a tag on any one thing that President Trump has done because he has basically dented the universe. This man has been transformative. This is a president that I've not seen anyone, like when he says he's going to do something, he actually does it. But the things that he's done, from the big, beautiful bill to what he was able to do in the Middle East to what he's been able to do on so many things when it comes to deregulation, doging government. When he came in last year and began to doge the federal government, they were taking the signs off the front of buildings and they were just moving people out. I mean, when Kash Patel came into the FBI and the entire top floor of the FBI office headquarters was just moved out, it's that type of action that kind of inspires me that, that's what people in South Carolina are looking for. They're looking for men and women of action, people who can deliver results. And Donald Trump is one of these people who came in, Republicans and Democrats would argue about, hypothetically, they'd be arguing over the menu, they'd be arguing over the place setting. Donald Trump came in and flipped over the table, and people are like, yes, I want that. I want someone who's going to be transformational, someone who's going to move the needle. And I think the president's done an excellent job both in the first and the second terms. I'll tell you right now, I've been backing the president since his first term. I'm the only candidate in this race that actually risked his law license. I actually went to the U.S. Supreme Court in defense of election integrity back in 2020. I had over 30 complaints filed against me, and it took me 4 years to get them dismissed. I also was in the New York City defending the president, supporting the president in his criminal trial. I've been defending the president on his executive orders to remove Tren de Aragua and to get rid of birthright citizenship. That was heard 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, we have been in the trenches fighting for and defending President Trump and his agenda, and that's the kind of governor I'm going to be when it comes to supporting the president.
Obviously, General, President Trump has his unique style, right? He's like a bull in a china shop in some ways. And I think you mentioned DOGE earlier and reforming government. He's trying to do that at the federal level. What is one area in your mind, or maybe a couple areas in South Carolina government that you would kind of like to take that same approach to?
So, Russell, that is an excellent question, and I just wrote an op-ed that was dropped, I believe, yesterday in the Greenville News, and it should be statewide, but South Carolina is 30 years behind in technology innovation. probably about 15 to 20 years behind other states. There are emerging technologies like the Internet of Things, cloud computing, blockchain technology. That's the technology that supports the cryptocurrency universe, or artificial intelligence. Other states are implementing these types of technologies to streamline government. President Trump signed the Genius Act. President Trump created the DOGE organization that is actually using these technologies to get rid of fraud, waste, abuse, and corruption out of the federal government. South Carolina needs to do the same. Folks, there was a time when people thought that the horse and buggy was an adequate form of transportation, or that they thought the typewriter was an appropriate way or a good way to produce a document, or that remember your flip phones? Remember how awesome we loved those until we saw the smartphone. Right now, we are operating government on the equivalent technology of a flip phone. We need to move to blockchain technology. This is technology that could track from the second a dollar is appropriated by the General Assembly to the second it funds a project. You could go to this website and you could see every single person who touched it, down to the school teacher in the school or the municipal worker. We could use blockchain technology. Tired of sitting at the DMV to get your title switch? California put 40 million vehicles on blockchain platforms, which made getting a title switch from 6 weeks to about 6 minutes. We could use artificial intelligence to do things from eliminating fraud, waste, and abuse, identifying where that money is going and how to track the fraud. We could use AI to streamline traffic congestion in cities. Pittsburgh just implemented an AI traffic management system. That system actually cut commuting times down by 25% because it's reading traffic patterns in real time and then changing the lights based on that. There are so many things we could do with AI, blockchain, and other evolving technologies that would transform our state and push us into the 21st century and make it easier for us to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse and make government more accountable to you and your families.
You know, it's alarming, General, and you might have heard this before, maybe you haven't, but you talk about eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse. There's a GAO study that says that every year out of the federal treasury, there's about $500 billion that walks out in waste, fraud, and abuse. Isn't that remarkable to you?
It's crazy. Real quick, if I may, Russell. Yeah. Last summer, my office uncovered $20 million in Medicaid fraud and waste. We found it. It had been happening for 5 years. We prosecuted about 9 or 10 defendants who were engaging it. This is the largest Medicaid scam in South Carolina history. And basically, in a nutshell, what they were doing is they were creating fake companies, and then they would go steal the Medicaid beneficiary information of minor children, and then they would use the real doctor ID numbers, and they would bill against these children's Medicaid applications, and then actually create fake reports on real kids. And every time someone started to find this company might be Russell's Counseling Services or Allen's Counseling Services, every time that they would red flag that business, they would close that business down, the Secretary of State's website, go create a new business. My team went and met with some of the government agents that were enforcing this, and they said, have you actually gone to the Secretary of State's website to look to see if this physical address is actually a real business? They said, we don't have the time or the bandwidth to do that. So our agents went back to the office. They got on Google Maps, zoomed down to the address on the Secretary of State's website. It was the actual address, physical address, for the local HHS office in that area of the state. So the office where they were operating out of was the address being used, and we weren't catching it. The government wasn't catching it. And we are suing, but that money's gone. We could have prevented that by having modern technologies like AI and blockchain that would have tracked that money in real time and prevented that fraud, waste, and abuse. That $20 million was an invisible tax on all of you and all of us.
Sounds like your team needs to train those in Minnesota. I think they're having a little bit of a problem with that, huh? Shifting gears a little bit to taxation in South Carolina, there's been a lot of talk, I think, amongst all the candidates about income taxes or taxes generally. What is the Alan Wilson, Mike Rickenbaugh plan for taxes in South Carolina? How would you, and then I think more importantly, how would you do that as governor?
Well, first off, and thank you for identifying my running mate, Mike Rickenbaugh, sitting on the front there. Let's give Mike Rickenbaugh hometown. So, I mean, I actually have a plan. People keep saying they're the only one that has a plan. Actually, I've been talking about eliminating the income tax for years, and I know the governor just signed a bill that is on that trajectory. But, folks, let's look at the history of South Carolina. For 76 years, there have been only 8 instances where we spent less money from one year to the next. And the last time that happened was in 2008, 9, and 10, right after the financial crisis. But the other 68 years, we were spending more money from one year to the next, constantly going up, okay? So we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. In the last 2 years alone, the last two budgets that I've seen, we've gone up by 11 and 12% from one year to the next, each respectively, over the last 2 years. We can do better. Had South Carolina capped the rate of spending by state government to the rate of population over a 10-year period, we could have returned, just in state dollars alone, almost $20 billion in permanent tax cuts. You can do it over a period of time. 47% of our revenue comes from the income tax, so that money has to be replaced. When you let people keep more of their money, what do? They go buy things, they consume things, they invest in things. Businesses expand and grow, and they hire new people. The entire economy grows. Therefore, the pie wedge of revenue sources grows for all the other revenue sources. We can eliminate the income tax. Russell, I want to end on this question with one really quick story. About 7 years ago, I was at a conference in Arizona, and a friend came and picked me up at the hotel to take me over to his headquarters to show me his new company that he had opened. On the way back, we were talking about the possibility of him moving to the Southeast one day. I said, I would love for you to come to South Carolina. He said, well, what's your income tax? At the time, it was 6.5%. I said, well, he said, Alan, get it down to zero, and I was seriously thinking about moving my company there because I love that state. That person was Charlie Kirk. Now, Charlie, never got a chance to move here, but there are thousands of Charlie Kirks out there who are thinking about coming to South Carolina, but that one issue alone deters them from ever even considering our state. You remove that impediment, you can open up the floodgates to capital investment in our state.
There's a lot of talk, obviously, about growth. South Carolina is experiencing tremendous growth right now. Businesses popping up. From an infrastructure perspective with DOT, how would you, as governor, treat the Department of Transportation? What reforms, if any, would you like to see done, and how would we reprioritize infrastructure investment in our state?
So first thing is you got to reform the Department of Transportation. Right now you have 9 commissioners on the Department of Transportation elected by a congressional district to the legislature, confirmed by the legislature, and then you have the Secretary of Transportation elected by them. It should be a direct report to the governor. So that's the first thing you do. There's also a lot of impediments in the operation of the Department of Transportation. For instance, we need to remove impediments to public-private partnerships that currently exist. We also need to remove or accelerate permitting times. There are a lot of bureaucratic permitting issues that require people to wait longer to be able to build a road, a bridge, or some type of infrastructure. We start with changing the makeup of the Department of Transportation. But let's talk about this. South Carolina, again, we're talking about innovative technologies. We also need to apply innovative thinking. There are things that we are not doing that other states are doing because we're stuck in the box. We need to get out of the box. For instance, who's the largest landowner in the state of South Carolina? The state of South Carolina. All of that grass between the north and southbound lanes of 95, we own that. The easements on the left and right sides of 95, we own that too. What if we were to do 99-year leases to telecommunications companies laying fiber optics and energy companies laying natural gas pipelines in those easements and collect the revenue? What if we were to do tolled express lanes, let people who don't even come to our state but drive through our state on their way to Florida or across 85 or into South Carolina on 77, let them pay for the ability to get on those express lanes. We could do easy passes. The technology's there for South Carolina residents. Another thing I would like to do, and one of the first things I'm going to do as governor, is I'm going to come to our delegation, Russell, and I'm going to ask for us to go remove the federal impediments to privatizing rest areas and put private businesses, restaurants, Mike loves to talk about Buc-ee's. Well, let's put little mini Buc-ee's.
Probably be cleaner, right? Be cleaner.
Let's put Chick-fil-A's and Spinx's and Circle K's or whoever we can get, and let's put them in those private. We have 15 unused that are abandoned rest areas right now that I talked to the Secretary of Transportation yesterday that could be used as a pilot program, and then charge a premium for the use, a convenience fee for the use of those, and let that revenue go to infrastructure. There's so many things we could do that we're not doing, but when I'm governor, we're going to do them.
The legislature, the House and the Senate, recently passed a concurrent resolution that named the South Carolina portion of I-73 after President Trump. President Trump, by the bill sponsor, was credited with securing the permits, beating back the legal challenges in his first term. So do you support the completion of I-73? And as governor, how would we go about doing that?
There's no way you can't support this. First off, obviously, tourism is one of the top 3 sectors next to agribusiness and forestry and manufacturing. Tourism is a major economic generator in our state. That is why Horry County, which is a huge part of our economy, is so important, and it's becoming overcrowded and overpopulated. Obviously, you got to have more arteries for traffic to ingress and egress from these areas of the state. But there's also a public safety and an emergency management component to this issue. We are in the middle of Hurricane Alley, and when you are forcing all of that traffic to bottleneck through 501 and 22 and all these other highways, you're forcing all of that traffic during an emergency to come through these small towns, and it's bottlenecking, and people are being stuck for hours upon hours upon hours, and it's dangerous, especially when you have a hurricane coming toward the coast of South Carolina. So for emergency evacuation purposes, we absolutely need to do this. For economic development purposes, putting that interstate there would open up pipelines of economic development to rural communities through this area of the PD that don't currently exist. You put that there, you give those people a lifeline, you provide the opportunity for more economic development in an area of the state that desperately needs it. We need to make sure we have local control over that expansion because we want smart growth. There's a reason people go and live in rural areas. They like that open space. We don't want to lose that. But we can still have the economic development without losing the character of those communities.
Thank you for that. South Carolina is experiencing, I think, obviously VC summer, which was once a bad word in the General Assembly, and is experiencing, I think, a nuclear renaissance in a way. So how does the next governor harness energy production in this state? How would you go about doing that or making it possible in South Carolina? And what would that do, I think, to the families of South Carolina when we're producing more energy?
So when we talk about infrastructure, people obviously talk about roads and bridges, but the energy grid is every bit as important as a physical road or a bridge. Obviously, you have companies and people moving into the state, you have to be able to meet their energy needs. Obviously, finishing VC summer is absolutely important for nuclear production. I was involved in the initial prosecution and investigation of the folks at former SCE&G and the stuff that was happening up there at the VC summer site.
Y'all remember that, by the way? You remember when people went to jail?
Baseload Review Act, we ruled unconstitutional, that we wrote the opinion on that. So there was a lot of stuff going on at that time. But we got to be innovative again. We have battleships and aircraft carriers and submarines operating on modular reactors out in the ocean. We can incentivize companies to either use modular reactors or modular energy generators or generate their own energy. These large companies that come in here generate their own energy. The energy that they don't use, that excess energy can be given back, and I would incentivize them through tax credits to give that energy back to local utilities. I would obviously want the utilities at the table before we do this, but increased energy supply causes prices to go down. Affordability is probably the #1 issue in South Carolina, and energy prices is a major contributor to the increase in cost of living, and we got to reduce that so families can get by better.
Thank you for that. You know, from a leadership style, we've seen governors be helpful, I guess, of working with the legislature, kind of forging consensus, if you will. We've also had governors that are a little bit more combative and go toe-to-toe with the legislature. Just for you as a person, what's your style like, and how would you use that to your advantage as governor?
So first off, at every level of government, from town council to the federal government, there is always going to be bad government actors, incompetent government actors, corrupt actors. But the vast majority of people in government are good. Yes, there are many who exploit the system because the system is easily exploitable. But as governor, you can't go to an entire body of people and say, you're all corrupt, right? You're all horrible. Now, give me everything I asked for so I can get reelected. And that's how some people are campaigning. You can't do that. You have to be able to work with people, even people within your own party that don't always share your point of view. You have to be able to work with people, build consensus. So governors in the past have given ultimatums to the General Assembly. That doesn't work. Other governors in the past have been rolled over by the General Assembly. That doesn't work either. Colin Powell wants to find leadership as the ability to get people to do what you want them to do because they want to do it. You can do that as a governor by working with the leadership. You can excise the bad government actors, work with the good ones. You can build a vision that people buy in. Let them get credit for the good ideas that the governor has. I don't care if they get credit for it, but we get it across the line and it makes your lives better. That is the type of leadership that I would bring as governor of South Carolina.
You know, South Carolina cares deeply about its faith. There are a lot of social issues that are near and dear to the voters' heart. So for issues of life or parental rights, religious liberty, protecting kids, what makes you the kind of leader that voters can count on from a faith perspective when you're talking to them in our communities?
I mean, Russell, the only person in the race for governor who's actually gone to court and defended the right to life. I went to the U.S. Supreme Court on the Dobbs case. I went to the state Supreme Court twice on the heartbeat bill. I have brought probably more than half a dozen lawsuits against Planned Parenthood all around the country, just in South Carolina. I hired the Alliance for Defending Freedom to take on the Medina case in South Carolina. That couldn't have happened without me. I have been out there defending religious liberty when it comes to the Hobby Lobby case, the right of corporations not to be compelled to do abortifacient services, or Arlene's Flowers not be compelled to provide floral arrangements for same-sex weddings, or Masterpiece Cake Baker. We defended people's rights to practice their faith in the way that they want, not the way that the government wants them to. And I've actually been in court defending parental rights, defending life, defending religious liberty, the First Amendment. I have done it time and time and time and time again over 15 years. So my record is replete with results of success in defending. Last year, we went and defended the Tennessee bill that made it impossible. Tennessee passed a law like South Carolina that says you can't trans a kid. Until they're 18 years old, they can choose to do that. Well, we got sued on that bill, so did Tennessee. I went to the Supreme Court with Tennessee, and the Tennessee overruled that in the Scarametti case, and now South Carolina's law can go into effect. I'm currently defending the case that prohibits boys from going into girls' bathrooms. So when people are talking about what would you do as governor, I'm already doing it as Attorney General.
All right, so now we're going to go to the tough lightning round questions. So you're on the road a lot, right? You got to have a little energy sometimes. It's grueling to be on the campaign circuit across the state. What's your go-to caffeinated beverage?
So I've always been, from my old days in the Army, right? I used to black coffee, the way God made it in the beginning, on the first day, right? Black coffee. However, if you want to force me to drink a soft drink, Diet Mountain Dew.
All right. Oh, yeah. All right.
Can I hear an amen?
I'll do
Mike,
an amen.
Give me an
to
amen,
that.
Mike. Thank you.
All right, so these issues are very divisive, and we just got to make sure we clear it up because you might lose votes over this. You might gain votes too. We'll see. Mustard-based barbecue or vinegar-based barbecue?
So the most dangerous place on a road is in the middle. So I'm gonna pick a lane.
All right.
Okay. So I like them all, but if I have to pick, mustard.
All right, fair. Clemson or South Carolina?
I'm a Gamecock fan.
All right.
Grew up a Gamecock
See,
fan.
he's not on the middle on that one. There we go.
I lost a couple Clemson votes. I do pull for you when you're not playing Carolina, but I'm going to be true to my school when y'all do play them.
So what is your favorite vacation spot in all of South Carolina?
South Carolina's got some of the most beautiful coastal regions of the state, and every time I go there, I just feel my stress melt away, so it'd have to be somewhere along the coast.
Yeah, fair. And the last question, let's assume for a second, we'll play it forward. If you were sworn in as governor, what is the first act that you want to do as governor? The first thing you want to focus on?
So after I'm sworn in or the day after I'm elected?
After you're sworn in.
After I'm sworn in. Obviously, the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to call a meeting of the Families First Audit Initiative, which Mike Rickenbaugh, my running mate, and by the way, the only campaign who has actually put the running mate on the sticker. I want you to be able to evaluate him as much as you evaluate me, but Mike and I will preside over the Families First. Thank you. Families First Audit Initiative, which is an audit initiative that will make recommendations on the complete overhauling of state government and give a plan, a roadmap to the General Assembly so they can make statutory changes, and it will give us a roadmap for policy changes that we can do without the legislature. It's going to include innovation, technologies, removal of bad and outdated regulations that should have been gone. We're going to return government back to the people, and that's going to be the first priority on day one, and then we'll start putting ourselves to work to make life more affordable for you and make your businesses more profitable for you, and to make your government more accountable for you when I'm governor of South Carolina.
Y'all, let's give it up for Attorney General Alan Wilson. Thanks for coming in, man.
Thank you.
All right, this is going pretty smooth so far. Thank you all again for being here. The next up, I think, is Congresswoman Nancy Mace. Is that right? I cannot see back there. Congresswoman, welcome to the stage, Congresswoman Nancy Mace.
Evening.
All right, Congresswoman, thanks for coming up. Obviously, you and I work together in Washington, D.C.
And in the state legislature.
And in the state legislature.
On the judiciary.
Yeah, that was fun, too. Judiciary committee's a lot of fun. Like, that's where lawyers spar, but you don't have to be a lawyer to be on judiciary.
You're a lot of fun. You're on judiciary in the House now, too.
Yeah, it's fun. Jim Jordan and I, and we're doing the border stuff. So.
Yeah, we lost you on oversight to judiciary.
I miss oversight. Oversight was fun.
Oversight's where we got AOC and that whole thing.
Oh yeah. Ayanna Pressley.
Ayanna Pressley.
Oh, yeah.
Who did I tell to take it outside? The one that's Jasmine. She's on that one. Jasmine Crockett's on that one too.
Well, she's taking it outside. She's no longer going to be in Congress
She's
anymore,
outside.
right?
She's literally outside.
I think the president calls her low IQ Crockett.
Yeah. I think he calls all of them low IQ.
I think he's got a nickname for everybody.
Yeah.
Speaking of the president, just what's your take? So obviously there's several of you running for governor. Are you seeking the president's endorsement? Would you like it? And why, out of the candidates that are running, should he give
My
that to
understanding is he's going to sit this one out. He's known all of us for a very long time. I talked to the president. I mean, I have a good relationship with him. And in fact, when the war broke out, I spoke to him while he was in the war room because I was on my way to the Middle East. I actually helped evacuate the last family from South Carolina that was stranded in Israel when the war broke out. And when I got to Jordan, he's like, "What are you doing in Jordan?" I was like, "I'm getting Americans out." but I have a great relationship with him, and I respect it. And if I were him, I would probably sit it out too. And I think we all respect that. And he's a great president. We'll go down as the greatest president in American history.
Well, y'all think that? Y'all think that? Y'all think that way? Yeah, all right,
Yeah.
We do. It's a Trump country.
He's pretty amazing.
And obviously, I know you were on his original campaign in 2016, right?
2015. I started
2015.
in August of 2015.
Early.
Yeah.
Right after he went down the escalator.
Yeah,
Roughly.
very shortly after.
And you look at his first term and his second term, what is one thing, when you think about President Trump, one thing that defines him and you go, man, that was just a great moment that defines his presidency?
He gets everything right. He's literally the only person I think I've met who's in government or in politics who literally gets it right. And he did it from the get-go when he was president in 2016. He did the Azar report, which is in December of 2018, that said, hey, get rid of certificate of need programs to reduce the cost of health care in the state. Now, the state of South Carolina had a certificate of need program until about 2 or 3 years ago, but that was Trump's idea. And so, everything he's said, he's done well and done right. And he just gave you the biggest tax cut in American history last summer. He did that. And we got to do that here in South Carolina, by the way. We got to do that here.
When you think about his style of leadership, and the way that he approached federal government, what is one way in which you want to approach state government the same way that he has? And what would that be?
Well, I want to ask state employees what were the 5 things they did last week. I think we all want to know what they're doing. But, he's led the way, whether it was creating DOGE and cutting spending and cutting taxes. He's shown where there is a will, there is a way. And sometimes you do have to have uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes you do have to tweet about things. And I have to tell you, people are afraid of my tweets. I've got a lot of followers online, but, I've caught some state-funded colleges and institutions that, one of them had 15 genders on a form and male and female weren't 2 of them. And so I said, well, I'm going to tweet about this. I tweeted about it, and Clemson University took it down a couple hours later. So I think I have learned a lot from President Trump's leadership. We have the skills, the substance, the policy, all the proposals you're seeing from me policy-wise for the governor's race, I've written. I've drafted all of them personally myself. I don't have a team of a dozen people. I have 2, just now 3 full-time employees for the governor's race. So everything you see policy-wise, they're ideas of mine that I've learned about or did through Congress and I want to bring to the state as governor. But, that's a huge benefit, and I've learned a lot from the president and his leadership style. You got to use the bully pulpit, but also use policy, follow through, and actually do what you say you're going to do, because it's not enough to talk about it anymore. I don't like politicians that talk. They say one thing on the campaign trail and do another when they get elected. Who is tired of that? So tired of that. So tired of that. And that's why, Russell, I have no friends in Washington, D.C., because I do what I say I'm going to do, even when people don't like it.
What do you think? You mentioned taxes earlier, Congresswoman, and you have a tax proposal on income taxes. What is that, and how soon do you think that would be implemented if there was a Governor Mace?
Yeah. Well, the Post and Courier went through a detailed article about the plans. I'm the only candidate with a detailed plan to eliminate the state income tax down to zero in 5 years or less. The state budget is about $41 billion a year. There are three different buckets, roughly, that the budget is funded for. One of those buckets is called the general fund. And we have so much revenue in the general fund. If you were to just freeze the general fund spending to 2023 or 2024 levels at $11.6 billion, in my first year as governor, we could reduce your state income tax by almost 50% in year one, because the state is so flush with cash. And why are we flush with cash? Because we are the fastest growing state in the nation right now. Everybody from California, New York, Illinois, Ohio, Maryland, Boston, wherever, Massachusetts, they're all coming down to South Carolina because of our quality of life. And that has brought a lot of revenue to the state. That's a good thing. If you own real estate, you've made a lot of money in your real estate, but if you rent, the state has become very unaffordable. There are some places in South Carolina, if you want a 2-bedroom condo, downtown Greenville, $1.2 million 6 months ago. Probably higher than that now. And if you want to rent a 3-bedroom apartment, there are some places in the state where it's going to cost you a minimum of $5,000 a month. And I'm just sitting here thinking, are you kidding me? We barely pay our teachers $50,000 a year starting out. How are cops and law enforcement, first responders, even worse in some parts? So how can we continue this? So my job as governor is to make sure that I'm taking care of our people and our state to make it the most prosperous and the most affordable that it can be, so you can raise your family, create a company, and work and retire in the greatest state in the country.
What do you think? I think in that same vein, from a lowering affordability is kind of the buzzword, right? But how do we lower costs for South Carolinians from state government? What are some things?
Well, number one, if you have zero state income tax, that's thousands of dollars a year to a family, and if there are 2 full-time working adults in the house with kids, that's thousands of dollars to go towards groceries, to go towards gas. Obviously, taking a look at regulations in the state. I mean, we can cut government spending if we can strong-arm the legislature to do that. Yes, that's what everybody's going to say. But one of the things that we really have to take a look at is the regulatory environment. I don't know if you know this, but if you do hair and makeup and you want your cosmetology degree, it will cost you $30,000 to get licensed in the state of South Carolina. You have to have a license to hang wallpaper. And so we have all these regulations that are outdated. One of the things that Trump did in his first term as president, for every new regulation, the federal government had to repeal 2. He ended up, by the end of his first term, for every new regulation created by the federal government, he repealed 10, up to 10. So that's the kind of thing. We've had a sunset bill that the State House has authored and had probably for a decade, and we cannot get it to pass. This is a bill that would sunset regulations, and we have a strong state, we have strong revenue, we have strong workers, we need a strong governor who will ensure these common sense reforms actually get done. And if that means I've got to get on Twitter and embarrass some people until we get a vote on it and we get it out of both chambers onto my desk to sign into law, then that is what we're going to do, because common sense is too uncommon right now these days in our state legislature.
Speaking of, and feel free to clap for any of these answers, but reform of, you live in a tourism center, Charleston, right? I live in a tourism center.
My family's from Sellers, by the way.
That's
if you go to Antioch Church, about 20 minutes from here, we got some folks buried from a long time ago. We're from the PD region.
Yeah. How do we reform DOT, cut red tape, make sure that these projects are coming online quicker, save the taxpayers money, but give them a better bang for their buck on prioritizing infrastructure in South Carolina?
Auditing SCDOT would be a great first step. Also making sure that the state has more shovel-ready projects. So every time there's a new president that comes in, or we're doing infrastructure appropriations or infrastructure spending or bills, we want to make sure that the state is ready when those dollars come online and when they are appropriated. One thing you may not know, but I helped secure the largest infrastructure grant in state history last year to the tune of $195 million. What I have done infrastructure-wise on grant funding in the last year and a half to 2 years, I helped secure over $400 million in infrastructure and roads and bridges funding, stormwater flooding projects, just for my congressional district. And I want to take that same chutzpah, that same energy, that same knowledge, the ability for my team to go after federal money, federal dollars, federal resources, federal grants will be huge for the state. The other thing that we have to do, we have a lot of rural areas, we have a lot of small towns and rural counties. I want to make sure when it comes to planning and resources that every town has the same access to the grant funding that any metropolis area, a larger city or town might have, and that's what we will be doing. We have great relationships in the administration, great relationships with people in Congress. We've been extremely successful in getting appropriations for our part of the state, and I want to bring that same energy to everywhere, because your tax dollar, whether you are in Marion or whether you are in Spartanburg or Lancaster, your tax dollars are the same. And everybody should be treated equally. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be very aggressive going after federal funding for every town, large and small, across the state.
Yeah, well, and y'all need, Charleston, obviously, in the low country, you need roads and infrastructure. And
y'all need it too, though.
Rural America
you get traffic here. We got a highway we got to build, and we got Donald J. Trump Highway. We got to.
That's right. That was my next subject, actually.
We got to get that going.
So obviously, the legislature passed a concurrent resolution, and I think we all collectively supported it from afar, naming that road in South Carolina after President Trump, because he's the president that actually delivered on getting the permits. When he ran, he said, "I'm going to get the permits, okay?
Gotta do it this
and we're going to
way."
beat back the environment. The environmentalists are tough, but we're going to beat them back." So he did, and so it's never been farther, or it's never been closer to reality than today. So how, as governor, would we go about making sure that becomes a reality? And what would the plan be?
One of the things that I've been very successful at is bringing together federal, state, and local. You can't get something like that done in a silo. And understanding that sometimes it's a call to the arm, expediting permitting. I can tell you these federal agencies that work on a lot of these infrastructure projects, building roads and bridges, are terrified when they get a call from Nancy Mace. So that's a good thing, right? They're probably terrified when the president brings it up, right? Because that my word is my vow. When I say I'm going to do something and when I'm going to put pressure on you to get that thing done, we are going to do it. Come hell or high water, we're going to work hard and make sure that it happens. Again, it's not about saying we're going to do it, it's about actually delivering results. And that excites me. I'm very excited about making those phone calls. But I learned this early on in my first year in Congress, and I've been there for 5 years. But we had a project called Crab Bank. And it was about taking some sand and rebuilding an island for habitat. It would help protect from hurricanes, help protect wildlife and migration all down the coast. And the state government and local had been working on this thing for 11 years. I get in there. I have separate meetings between the different stakeholders over an 11-week period. I had a couple meetings where I brought all the stakeholders together, infrastructure people, wildlife people, the mayors, residents, everything. I got done in 11 weeks what could not be done in 11 years. And that's by having someone who's willing to negotiate the deal, get people together, understanding where they agree, understanding where they disagree, and getting the job done. And I think I get that from my dad, who's a retired Army general. And he was always known to fix things. You see a problem, here's a solution. And it excites me. I get up early every day thinking about what can I fix today. And I love that.
Obviously we deal with immigration at the federal level, right? We've voted on legislation before. We support what the president's doing. What can the next governor of South Carolina do to strengthen our relationships maybe with the federal government on enforcing laws on illegal immigration?
Well, I can tell you, we as a state have banned sanctuary policies. right? We're not supposed to have sanctuary cities, sanctuary counties, nothing. Well, I learned in 2024, we had a sanctuary sheriff in South Carolina. So what did I do? I got on my social media, I got on the press, and I exposed a sanctuary sheriff in South Carolina who was letting out illegal aliens who were rapists, who were murderers, and who were pedophiles. And by using my voice in a county that Kamala Harris won by 11 points, I got a Republican sheriff elected. He won by 1 point, and he worked with ICE on day one. And that is the kind of leadership that we will have in a Governor Mace administration. I want to deputize agents to be able to go assist ICE. We have hundreds of beds in facilities that could house illegal aliens to help expedite. We don't have to build Alligator Alley or whatever was done in Florida, because we have facilities that are unused currently by the state that the state could actually get reimbursed for by the federal government. We could be paid to house illegals. And we could also help President Trump expedite the deportation of illegal aliens who are here. This is a very important critical area that has to be addressed. In South Carolina, we have neighborhoods in some places, and you can hang out in Myrtle Beach at a Home Depot at 6 a.m. and see illegals on the corner trying to get work. But we have Tren de Agua here. We have the Sinaloa cartel. We have MS-13. There are places in neighborhoods in certain parts of the state where they don't speak English, and it is totally and entirely run by these cartels. This is important. We're looking at the Iran war and what Trump just did to root out terrorism by the #1 state sponsor of terrorism in the world, in Iran. Iran has funded Hezbollah. Hezbollah is tied to Tren de Agua. Tren de Agua is here. It is all across the state. And we're talking about the potential for terror cells, etc. I'm worried about rural South Carolina. I'm worried about small towns that Tren de Agua might be in, and that might have ties to Hezbollah. That is why this is so important, why it's so important that we have a governor who's strong, who will stand up to the blue cities and towns and counties that are growing because of the influx of folks that we have from New York or California or Ohio or Massachusetts or wherever, but they're here, and we need someone who's going to root them out and help deport them under Donald Trump.
Congresswoman, I know you've been to the border.
Thank you.
I know you've been to the border and seen it. When I went, my experience was I went out at 3 in the morning. It was very late. We went out, and they said, if you want to see something, you got to go out really late. So it was me and another congressman. And when we went out there, we saw people obviously from Central and South America, but we saw people there from Ukraine, from Uzbekistan, from the Middle East, from Africa, from Haiti. And it was just kind of alarming that there were 300 people that the cartels drop off. We funded, we obviously funded a cartel human smuggling operation for years, but I think a lot of Americans agree, and they're really worried about who is actually in this country. And so,
who is in this country and what are they doing? In the state of South Carolina, under the current leadership that we have today, human trafficking and sex trafficking is up by over 400%. It is here. It has to be exposed. It has to be rooted out, and know that it does not have a home here. We're going to root that out when I'm governor.
What, switching to style a little bit, governing style, what past governor do you think that you really admire, and why? And what elements of their term as governor would you like to borrow into your term as governor?
Well, I think there's something to be admired about anyone who's been governor in South Carolina. That is a huge feat. That is an enormous, I think, opportunity. I liked that Mark Sanford is a fiscal conservative. I think he had great ideas, had trouble executing them on cutting spending. He was always using the veto pen to show where the waste was in government spending. Governor Haley was very good about bringing people together, and she had foreign policy chops, unlike many governors across the country. Henry McMaster has the best jokes, and he just gave us a really big tax cut. So we can thank him for the work that he's done to get us a little bit closer to 0. I like my plan better, but Henry is a great person. He has a great personality that can bring people together, because a governor does have to do that. They have to bring elements of the legislature together, or you're never going to get anything done. And oh, by the way, no one would believe this because of the way the press covers me. I'm also the 22nd most bipartisan member of Congress. I've shown that as a conservative, without sacrificing my values and my principles, I've been actually able to be very successful. Look at the work that I've done on Epstein. That is a place where everyone knows people needed to go to jail. And I watched, with great courage and bravery, the First Lady, Melania Trump, today say, yes, we want to have these women testify before Congress. Yes, they are victims. Yes, we want to hear them. Yes, we want to root this out. And yes, there were multiple people involved who need to go to jail. And so, thank you. And, you know, I've been kind of ahead on some of these issues, especially when it comes to government corruption and injustice and seeing people that are bad go to jail. I've been on the front end of that. But it's been inspiring to see leaders, you know, be successful and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be out front on this, like it or not, but it's the right thing to do.
Congresswoman, when you were in the state legislature with me, I think we both supported expanded school choice opportunities for South Carolinians. What should the next step be in South Carolina on school choice, and how would you as governor go about pushing that and implementing it?
I think all the candidates are for school choice, universal school choice. It's going to be fought out in the court system because there's some constitutional issues for it. I'm from Goose Creek. In 1995, I dropped out of Stratford High School, and my parents said, if you're going to stop going to school, you got to start going to work. And I took a job at the Waffle House on College Park Road. You know, Denny's was a little too highbrow. And when I look at the education system today, it's very, I'm right, Mike, Denny's was too highbrow.
They got the moons over Miami, though. It's good stuff.
Well, I mean, okay, well, they got Artemis, too. That was the furthest anybody had ever been from Waffle House, right, as they go around on the dark side of the moon. But on education, we're at the same place we were 30 years ago when I was a kid in high school in 1995. I mean, we are almost dead last. And I'm looking at, for example, what Governor DeSantis has done in Florida. They have two very clear tracks for high school diplomas. They have one for the kid who's going to go on to higher education, get a 2 or 4 year degree. And then they have one for the skilled trades. I mean, my God, if you're 18 and you have your certificate in welding, you shouldn't have to come out of pocket. You should be able to get your diploma because you have that skilled trade certificate and go make $80,000 a year, by the way, at 18 as a welder. And if you have your nuclear welding certificate, by the time you graduate, you're making over $100,000 a year. And by the way, hair and makeup ain't so bad a deal if you can afford to get licensed. It's a great business to be in. A salon is one of the best businesses you can be in, by the way. But, you know, we have so much opportunity. You don't have to have a 4-year degree. I remember when I was in college at the Citadel, I taught myself to code. I didn't take a college class on it. I didn't get a degree in coding. By the time I was 21, I knew 6 different programming languages. And that started with me sitting at a computer because I needed one more thing to do as the first woman to graduate from the Citadel. I needed one more thing to do. I taught myself to code. And so, you don't need a degree for that. And in fact, I just did a bill in Congress that you voted for. Thank you. It's in the Senate now that would allow people that are qualified for a job in the federal government to get that job. You don't need a 4-year degree to do cybersecurity. You don't need a 4-year degree to code. In fact, some of our best, most talented folks don't have a 4-year college degree. And so, and the state government level, I would do the same thing. We would, if you don't need a 4-year degree for the job and you're very talented, we want you working for us. And I also, speaking of state government, we got to get rid of all the other languages when you're getting your driver's license, because apparently we have 4 languages. We only in English, but that's what I would
kind of need to read a stop sign, right? Like, that's important, right?
You should be able to read in English if you're going to be driving on our roads. But anyway, we got to talk to Governor Newsom. Governor Newsom's allowing them to come all the way to South Carolina, those truck drivers who are illegal and can't speak English.
4 languages. I don't think our stop signs are in 4 languages, but in 1.
Yeah.
It's kind of dangerous, actually, if you think about that. All right, so really divisive questions now, like the toughest that unite, divide us, I think will make or break a governor's race. What's your favorite caffeinated beverage? Out of all of them that are out there, what's your favorite one?
I do a cappuccino with honey.
Oh.
I gave up sugar 2.5 years ago, so I'd use honey in my latte or my cappuccino.
Okay. When we were the General Assembly, we ate a lot of barbecue because it was there a lot. So vinegar-based or mustard-based barbecue?
Oh, definitely ketchup-based.
Ketchup-based. Okay. All right. It wasn't an either or. It was ketchup. Clemson.
It's got brown sugar and a little bit of vinegar in it, but Dad's recipe is ketchup-based.
Okay. Clemson or South Carolina?
I love the Citadel.
I knew she was going to say that.
We don't pick sides up here.
No,
That is a death knell of any governor candidate.
What is your favorite vacation spot in all of South Carolina?
Oh man, I love going to the beach, Fripp Island down there, Hilton Head, Beaufort is fun. But honestly, like if I'm going to take vacation, I'm going to hang out with my kids.
Yeah. So
we're going to be like at Top Golf and doing that kind of thing, or just going out to dinner with my parents.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
So.
What? So let's fast forward a little bit. If Congresswoman Mace becomes Governor Mace, what is your first act as governor in January of 2027?
There's not one. I want to fix everything. The first thing that I'm going to do after asking people what they did last week is I want all the data, and I want to expose all the data. I don't know if you know this, but we have entire counties that the state has dropped 93% of pedophile cases. We have cases of pedophiles who've been, quote, prosecuted by the state of South Carolina that got 1 day in jail. There's a guy in South Carolina, Donald Gresh, you can Google him. Somebody sent me a Facebook tip. Thank you, Facebook. But 1,900 images of toddlers as young as 3 being assaulted by animals. The state prosecuted that case. He served 1 day in jail. I look at Scott Spivey's case. Scott Spivey's case, the state refused to investigate as a murder. And luckily, the civil courts are allowing the Spivey family to get justice for Scott. But they have had to fight tooth and nail and get attacked and get ignored by the state with no answers. Then I look at Logan Federico, executed in cold blood by a guy that the prosecutor, Solicitor Gibson in Columbia. This guy had over 40 felony arrests, 29 convictions, steals a gun, and execute beautiful, blonde, 22-year-old Logan Federico in cold blood. And the solicitor says to the family, I don't think we're going to do the death penalty. And the state jeopardized a potential death penalty case because of the public comments that the state made in the media, in the aftermath, when the family came forward, when Stephen Federico, her father, came forward and had that viral moment on Fox News and on television. But I just want it, whether it's how many potholes did you fill this week? I'm going to take all the spreadsheets from the state. I'm going to put a chart together, and on week 1, I'm going to show you what's going on, where the potholes are getting filled, who's getting arrested, who's going to jail, who didn't go to jail, what judges are doing and not doing. You're going to get everything. And we're going to make sure that we change the state and make it the best it's ever been. But the first step is to show you what's going on. Also on the first day, I'm writing all the bills. So every policy I've talked about, I have a pothole bill that I wrote. I've written all my policies, all my bills, but you'll have a book of bills that will say, hey, in the first 100 days, if the legislature can do this and get its act together, here are the first 50 bills, 100 bills in the first 100 days we can do right now. Repealing regulations, making the schools better, getting skilled trades as a high school certificate, all the things that we wanted to do, I will have drafted. Every single policy that I've talked about will have been drafted and be able to be executed by the legislature on day 1. I eat, I breathe, I live South Carolina. This state has given me so much. I've raised my family here. My family has been here for hundreds of years. I've raised my children here. I work here. I want to retire here just like you and have the best life I can be right where my family is from, just like each and every one of you. And I'm excited about it. And I want to thank you for your support because it's been incredible and it's been amazing. And you all are going to make this happen.
Y'all, let's give Congresswoman Mace a round of applause. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you so much. Good to see you.
There's no intermission, folks. There's no intermission. We're going to have a great time. All right, next, I'm seeing, I think we're whittling down, but next we have our Lieutenant Governor, Pamela Evett. She is here. Welcome to the stage, Pamela Evett. crowd, I think. We also, you know what's funny about this, by the way? We had some, so when we put it out there, you could sign up. Y'all all signed up online. And I said, something's a little odd to me. Maybe we should just check. So I had my team check to see where people are registering from, because there are people who just like to troll conservatives. They could look at your Facebook page or Congresswoman Mace's or mine, and so there were people who were from Seattle, Washington, right? I don't think any of those people could vote for me, and even if they could, they wouldn't, right? So we had to scrub that. But this is a good crowd, and I really appreciate you being here. So the way I would lead off on this is always about the big elephant in the room. That's Donald Trump. And who he is as president, how he has been. What is one thing that you think is, when you think of President Trump, that successful leadership looks like? What is one thing that he has done that you really admire?
Well, there's a lot of things. But first and foremost, Russell, thank you for having this. Aren't we all proud to have Russell Fry representing us in Washington? Whew. I know when I travel around, I hear so many wonderful things about you. Everybody talking about this congressman. So, Donald Trump is a larger-than-life figure. And the one thing I loved about him, it was the one thing long before I was in elected office that really drew me to him, is that he was a businessman. And, I spent my entire life in business, started a company in an office in my home, grew it into a national company. And I would complain to David all the time. And I'd say, you have career politicians that have no idea what we go through every day. How hard it is, when you have to sign the front of that paycheck and you're up all night trying to make a go. And I said, I saw him come down that golden escalator, and I was like, this is my guy, David. And he's like, well, what do you know about him? And I said, not much. I know he's a reality TV star, but I know he's a businessman. And that's what I want. That's who I want making the rules for us. And that's what I admire about him. He's unapologetic about putting America first. He's unapologetic about supporting American businesses. And he's unapologetic about protecting the American worker. And I love that about him. Finally, a president who will stand up and say to the world, enough is enough. You are not going to take advantage of America anymore.
So I think, and I've asked everyone this, and I think they all universally agree, you would like his endorsement, and is that correct? Yeah? I mean, if he were to give it, you would say, me, we would all, I did that, I'm not ashamed to say, we wanted his endorsement when we fried the rice. I think that's why I got it, by the way, was the last name. It just kind of caught. But you want it, I would assume, and why should the president, if he's going to wade in to this race, why should the president pick you as the America First champion in South Carolina to be the next governor?
Well, I say to everybody, everybody should be honored to get the president's endorsement. Nobody should expect it. But if I was talking to the president, I would remind him that on January of 23, and you were there weren't very many of us there. The president called and invited us to come to the Capitol. It was a Saturday. It was around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah. Not a lot going on a Saturday at 2 o'clock. But I was supposed to be out of town. I was supposed to be with RSLC in Florida putting on an event for our corporate donors. And I got a call and said he was coming. He was going to announce the fact he was running. I canceled my plans. My husband, Jackson, we all went down. I'm the only person running for governor that stood with the president that day, shoulder to shoulder. Because, thank you. Because nothing was more important to me than getting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris out of that Oval Office. And nothing would have stopped me from getting there to support him.
Yeah, they were pretty terrible. But I always explain to people, we went from a president who slept 20 hours a day and was awake for 4 to a president who sleeps for 4 and is awake for 20. That's kind of like the big difference, one of the biggest differences.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm going to take a moment for a second. It's odd, by the way, and you were there on stage, but it was odd when we were in New Hampshire, and I was asked to speak, and when the president's like Morgan Freeman behind you narrating your speech, you're trying to captivate a crowd, and he's like, that's true, that totally happened, and he's back here, it's just...
I love it because I remember that too, because they asked me to speak, And I started this chant, bring him back. And you know, you're really putting yourself out there because you're hoping everybody's going to chant back, right? So when you're standing there and you're going, I think we should just bring him back. And then everybody started doing it. And Governor McMaster's behind me, and he the same thing. I could hear the president in the background going, oh, she's good, Henry. Henry, I love her. She's good. And so you're hearing it
throws you
going,
off, right?
I know. And then when he kisses you on the top of the head, I turned around and he kissed me and goes, you're marvelous. You know, and I was just like, oh, it's like your dad, right? Like, you just feel you feel happy, like you did something good.
So obviously we know his approach and the way that you look at him when he first ran. What is one thing that he has done at the national level, maybe stylistically or substantively, that you go, oh man, we should totally do that in South Carolina?
So, you know, it's coming in and it's cutting regulations. So the one question I get, because I came from the business world, and so the one question I always get from friends or if I'm speaking at an event is, what shocked you most when you entered your role as lieutenant governor? And I said, what shocked me was like the lack of technology, right? Because I owned a payroll HR company. We started out as a payroll company. We ended up being a technology company, right? Because of all the things you do. And I just couldn't believe that there was just this lack of automation. We were like 30 years into the dark ages on this. And I love that President Trump did that, right? He came in and he said, listen, we got to get everybody up to speed. And if we really want to root out waste, fraud, and abuse, then we need to bring technology onto the platform. And that is one thing we need to do here, right? We all talk about cutting taxes. How are you going to do that? You got to run efficiently. That's how we do it in our businesses. That's how you do it in your homes. So how are you going to do that? You lean in on technology. And once you have good technology in place, it's easy to now start checking to see, you know, do you have a gap? Is this something we should close up? Does this look like fraud? Maybe we should look a little bit deeper into this. But it all started with that.
Well, it was amazing because I think we were having breakfast with some of the Doge people, and Elon was there, and he said, you know, we didn't even know until Doge kind of came into some of these agencies. Money's flowing out the door of the U.S. Treasury, but they had no idea where it was going, or like there wasn't even a memo saying like payroll. There was none of that, and so I think that was a huge eye opener. It was like the federal government of the most powerful and prosperous country in the world has no idea what $1,237.20 that flowed out today, what that was actually for. It's kind of crazy.
And Russell, you know why? Because we have so many people that sit in government that are just bureaucrats. It's not their money, right? And they go in with that mindset, this isn't their money. And this is the type of thing that happens when you give government too much money, when they have too much. It becomes like this endless flow. I mean, if you want to talk about what causes inflation, it's over government spending. And so, I mean, I think that kind of feeds into that, right? Don't feed the beast too much, and then you'd have to wonder where your pennies went.
So if we do the technology thing and we're spending less money, that means there's probably going to be a tax cut. So my next question would be, assuming that we did all these things, what does a Governor Evans' tax plan look like, and how would you implement it as governor?
So a Governor Evans tax plan is to eliminate state income tax. And we really don't have a choice. Because in business, you have a competition everywhere. For a state, our competition is other states. And there was a great article in Fox Business this morning. And it was talking about 9 states that are kind of taking over. That's where all businesses are moving to. And it talked about North Carolina, South Carolina, you had Florida, and you had Georgia, and you had Texas. But you know what we're competing with? We're competing with Florida and Texas, who have now put into their constitution that they're never going to have a state income tax. And they're never going to have a death tax, and they're never going to have a wealth tax. And that is what we're going to be competing with. So it's eliminating state income tax. It's making sure that we continue with our surpluses by getting rid of useless regulations. I mean, if you're a business person, the one thing you know is that time is money. Time costs you money, and time kills deals. And that's what I hear when I travel all over the state. Is, you know, I hear the most outlandish stories. We have over 80,000 regulations here in South Carolina. President Trump was spot on. In his first administration, he said, for every 1 regulation, we're going to get rid of 2. He got rid of 4, because we all know he's a bit of an overachiever.
I think he took a chainsaw to them, right?
He really did. In the second term, he said for every one, we're going to get rid of 10. And I believe here in South Carolina, we should sunset all of our regulations. Bring them back up in front of the General Assembly. Figure out what's old and outdated and get rid of it. If it's good, let's keep it. But let's make sure it's not so broad that bureaucrats can inject their own opinions into it.
And we see that at the federal government for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Don't you love when people say if you call an office in government, you better get a name and a date and a time, because you could get 5 different answers to the same question.
That's true, actually. Speaking of just reform of government agencies a little bit, the Department of Transportation, South Carolina is growing by leaps and bounds. People are coming here, businesses are moving here. How do we reprioritize the South Carolina Department of Transportation, both from a regulatory perspective, but also a money perspective with roads, making sure that we're meeting the needs of South Carolinians who travel the roads every single day in the state?
Well, the governor and I in our executive budget this year, we asked for $1.1 billion in transportation dollars to expedite road projects. Because as I said earlier, time is money. The longer these projects go, the more expensive they get, and you don't have enough money to stretch it out then to other projects, right? So we have to get them done. We have to start looking at public-private partnerships. This is we see it happening in other states that we're competing with, like Georgia. How do we bring the public sector in to actually figure out how do we have an express lane? Let's let private dollars take that. And if you are in a hurry to get somewhere and you choose to go down it and you want to buy a pass, that's great. If you don't, if you're not really that much in a hurry, you like sitting in traffic because you have a great podcast you want to listen to, that's fine too. We also have to look at how many roads we have that SCDOT governs, and look at a creative way. And there's been a lot of talk about how do you take some of those secondary type roads and sort it out and give them back to the counties so that they can put a priority on them.
Here's an alarming stat. I'm going to take a segue for a second. We have the 4th largest state road system in the country. Little old triangular shaped South Carolina has the 4th largest. So that's kind of insane, a little bit, that y'all have to maintain, the state government has to maintain. So pivoting a little bit, but still on the version of roads, the South Carolina General Assembly recently, in the House and Senate, renamed a portion of I-73 in South Carolina after President Donald J. Trump. So I think voters want to know, do you support the completion of I-73, and how would you as governor go about making sure that permitted project becomes a reality?
Well, absolutely I am. That was something that the governor and I, you were in the State House when we were supporting that. We went to the infrastructure bank, and we did well. We're going to need your help with that, right? Because if memory serves me right, and my memory is kind of like an elephant, we got federal money. Yeah, no pun intended in this room of elephant lovers, right? But we got federal dollars that came down. The governor and I went to the infrastructure break when they were voting on it to make sure we would get state dollars. We need to make sure we have buy-in now on the local level. When we get buy-in on all 3, I think we're ready to roll. And that was the criteria back then. I'm sure it's the criteria now. But I-73 is a game changer, especially for this area, because I talk to businesses that are coming to South Carolina looking where to go. And when you're looking where to get your product in and where to get your supply chain goods out, you're looking to see what's the quickest route. And when you don't have something like I-73, it starts to make companies look at other parts of the state.
Right. How do you get your widgets to market quicker, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to pivot a little bit to energy. Obviously, VC Summer, which was once a very bad word in South Carolina politics, is undergoing new management, if you will. It looks like it's going to be a reality. So how does the next governor embrace nuclear energy, or really energy production? And what does that look like in ways that we can do that better in South Carolina?
Russell, that's a great question. So about 3 years ago, I started to do a really deep dive into energy, because energy is the future. President Trump says, energy security is national security. And here in South Carolina, we almost had a rolling blackout. That's when the governor and I put together Power SC, bringing all the best and brightest to the table. And we wanted to put everything on the table to see what would work best for South Carolina. I spoke on this at an event in D.C., we were talking about energy, and I was shocked. 58% of our power is nuclear here in South Carolina. We are really on the top of that list when you look nationwide. If my memory serves me right, I think we're 5th in the country with how much we use nuclear. Brookfield was in my office.
Did y'all know that, by the way?
Isn't that a great statistic? Be proud of
Hallmarks
something.
South
we're
Carolina,
doing.
we do nuclear
That's
energy.
right.
Very well.
We are leading it. But with the resurrection of EC Summer, I'm very excited about it. Brookfield was in my office within 6 years. They believe 6 to 7 years. You know, they're builders, so they won't lock in on a time, right?
All
They
for all
wanna
the
give you a
kids.
couple,
6,
yeah.
7, 6,
7, 6.5.
Sorry, I'm a dad joke. I'm sorry.
I know, 6, 7. Oh, that's pretty funny. But yeah, so, 2 reactors, possibly to go to 4. We have 2 more licenses in this state with Duke Energy. 6 reactors. We now could be selling energy, and what a great place to be in, because the technology of the future is going to require energy. The industries of the future, we're going to require energy. And so setting ourselves up to have that kind of base load energy, because that's what nuclear becomes. The General Assembly did a great job last year with their bill. I was out at Dominion seeing the pipeline going in, the bigger line going all the way up through Myrtle Beach into North Myrtle Beach with a bigger line so natural gas can get to this area. This is a game changer. And so we need to make sure that we're good on baseload energy, but we also need to make sure we're good on dispatchable energy. And that was something that broke my heart, because under Joe Biden, when he turned off natural gas, I was out at CMC in Casey. They're a steel recycler. And I'm an accountant by trade, so when you start telling me numbers, now you're speaking my love language. Well, they were telling me that when Joe Biden turned off natural gas, their energy costs went up $1 million a month. Imagine $1 million a month, $12 million a year hitting your bottom line. That's what failed policies do. That's why it's important to have good leaders that have a business mind, that can think into the future so they can ward off problems before they happen.
Shifting gears a little bit, and I asked this earlier to one of the candidates, but I represent obviously a tourism epicenter in Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand, but also have a lot of rural towns. And when I think about the challenges that they have, both from a federal perspective, but very importantly, a state and local perspective too, how does a governor rehabilitate, if you will, small rural towns to make sure that they don't die on the vine, that they're actually vibrant areas of commerce and kids playing, that we really protect and enhance rural America?
Well, Russell, you hit it on the head. Most people are shocked when I'm speaking and I talk to them and I say, agriculture and forestry arm wrestle hospitality and tourism for the #1 revenue generator in the state. And I'm the only candidate that has gone to all 46 counties, sat with our rural, sat with our farmers to hear about what they were doing, hear about what their needs were, hear about what they need, what they want, what their dreams and aspirations are. That's when I started talking about a master plan. I think I'm the only candidate that has talked about a master plan, because 3 years ago I realized the state had no master plan. And when I sat down with those farmers and I went out to those rural areas and I said, wow, we're going to put together a state master plan, their faces lit up, because finally they believe that they'll be part of the conversation, because somebody will be talking to them about that in their area. Forestry, we really need to help our landowners. We need to help our loggers. We've had so many paper mills closed down in this state. And if we don't help them get an outlet for their pulpwood, you're going to start seeing people sell big 1,000-acre tracts of land. And so that's something I've been working on, trying to see how we can get more of that here, looking at biofuel so that there is an outlet for that pulpwood, because they really need our help.
Absolutely. One of my first bills, speaking of helping small towns, it was a small bill. It was a grant transparency bill. But if you apply for a grant at the federal government, you're a small town mayor, oftentimes you're filling it out yourself, and you get rejected, you don't know why. So the first bill that we ever got done in Congress, that I ever got done, was a grant transparency bill. It was signed by Joe Biden or AutoPen, not sure which one, but it was signed by one of them. We won't question it, okay? But it was really to help, because that was what I heard from small towns is like we need federal help, and when we apply, we don't understand why we don't get it. So whether it was Biden or AutoPen, we're happy to have that signed into law. But real quick for you, what from a stylistic perspective, we've had some governors that have gone toe-to-toe with the legislature. We've had some governors that work very well with the legislature. Some would say maybe too well. What's your style, and why is that important for the next governor in South Carolina?
So, I've had the honor of working hand in glove with Governor McMaster. Not just my friend, he's my mentor. He has given me his full endorsement in this governor's race. I was really honored to have that. And it was wonderful to work alongside him because, obviously I came from the business world to lieutenant governor. But I remember talking to you, when you were just in the House and we were just friends and I was getting to know everybody. In the State House. And, I heard about the stories of, governors fighting with the General Assembly. Let's face it. This is a very legislative heavy state. The power of the governor is what I've seen working with Governor McMaster. It's sitting down and working with the General Assembly to get things done for you, because that's who we're getting things done for. And you don't mean you always have to agree, right? But it means you find common ground on the things you want to get done to help the people of South Carolina. And that's why Governor McMaster, still 10 years, longest serving governor, has such a high approval rating. Last time I think we checked, it was like 82%, because people like when they see things getting done and they like when they see functional government.
And he plays the guitar and he quotes Spice Girls.
Well, he does. And Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw.
So the divisive questions that we get to at the end, the lightning round, what is your caffeinated beverage of choice?
Vanilla latte with almond milk.
Almond milk, all right.
I'm getting old. I can't keep doing it.
If we're choosing barbecue, vinegar-based or mustard-based?
Well, this is a big point of contention in our family because David is a huge mustard-based guy, and I'm more of a ketchup-based girl. All right. I know. So we have the best of all worlds.
We have some ketchup fans in the audience.
I know. So we have the best of all worlds.
I should have added that. I should have added ketchup to it.
I thought you were trying to stump me.
South Carolina Gamecocks or the Clemson Tigers?
I'm an equal opportunity tuition payer. That's what I like to say. My oldest graduated from the College of Charleston, but she got her law degree from the University of South Carolina. My youngest son, is a freshman at Clemson in the architecture program, and my middle son went to technical college. And thank God that we have the best technical college systems in the world.
What's your favorite vacation spot in all of South Carolina?
Myrtle Beach.
I knew you'd say that.
That is my home away from home.
All right, and the very last question is, if Lieutenant Governor becomes governor, what is your first act as governor in 2027?
My first act as governor is to eliminate state income tax.
All right. Y'all give our Lieutenant Governor a round of applause. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I'm still seeing in the back there, but I think he's here. So by the way, before we bring our next and last guest on stage, the way that the people were chosen to come on was there's a randomization app where you could just punch in people's names and it randomizes it. So we did that for all the candidates. We sent them the video to show how we did it, and it spit out the order. So it was not picking winners and losers. It wasn't alphabetical. It wasn't who's polling first or who's raised the most money. It wasn't Fry's personal preferences. It was AI and an app. And our last but not least gubernatorial candidate is somebody who I've worked with in the General Assembly, also work with in Congress, and that is Congressman Ralph Norman. Welcome to the stage, Ralph. So we're out of D.C. We're not. Be careful. I don't know that I have insurance to cover if you fell.
Be a good workman's comp plan.
We're on a budget. So we're out of D.C. We're not messing things up in Washington right now. It's probably been good and therapeutic to be home in South Carolina. But when you think about the governor and the next governor of South Carolina and where it will go, and we think about leadership styles, obviously we think about our current president, Donald Trump. What is one thing, when you think about his administration, either term 1 or term 2, that sticks out in your mind as true leadership and a defining moment in his presidency?
First of all, Russell, thank you for doing this. Thank each one of you for being here. You could be anywhere, and the fact that you're here is special. What makes Donald Trump special? One, he's a businessman. He's used to risk. If I had to point to 2 accomplishments, what he did on the Supreme Court during his first term, and what he's done to take out the #1 sponsor of terror is going to put him on Mount Rushmore, to be honest with you. The man he never sleeps. He does what he says. He's a leader, and he holds people accountable. And what you see is what you get with him. And that's what I've enjoyed working with him. I'm the #1 as far as promoting his policies, the Make America Great. You know, I backed him, and rightfully so. You have too. So he's turned this country around. He saved the world. Had he not gotten elected, had Kamala Harris or Biden been elected, we wouldn't know America as we know it today.
So I assume, and I'm speaking for you, but I assume that if he was going to endorse, you would want him to pick you as the candidate. I think the question that I have is, why should voters think that you're the true America First candidate in this race?
Yeah, I'd love to have President Trump's endorsement. Who wouldn't? Everybody would. Look, I'm different than the others, and you will hear it during the next 20 minutes. I'm the only candidate for governor who has run a successful business for 40 years and have got a track record of voting. And what gets me about politicians is so many of them say they're conservative on the campaign trail, they're for less government, less taxes, then they just revert to spending like we've seen in the General Assembly. And I'm the only one that's got a track record. If you look no further, read the record. I'm the only one that's got this conservative record. No one else does. And I guess the thing that I bring to the table, none of the candidates have used their voice. They've been silent on so many issues that affect this great state. So my business background, my ability to take on tough issues, I will do it, and I will call people out on it. Like, we need term limits in this state. We need to root out the waste, fraud, and abuse that's rampant here. And I heard one of the candidates say that, you know, that's not true. Well, it is true, and we will prove it when I'm governor. And so that's common sense to me.
Congressman, President Trump always has been successful, I think, at challenging the system. If you were governor today, what is the one area of state government that needs to be reformed right now, maybe above all others?
Well, let's look at the facts. And I've heard other candidates talk about our roads and bridges. I've been traveling these back roads since July 27th when I announced. You need a back brace, a neck brace, a knee brace. Some of the potholes you can fish in. It'll bury some cars, Mike. And it's no excuse for that. We rank the #1 state in fatalities. And that's no excuse. You've got 1,000 bridges that the footings are coming out of the ground. That's no excuse for that. We're going to prioritize that. Right along with that is judicial reform. Trial lawyers pick our judges through the Joint Merit Selection Committee. Judges appear before them. How is that different than letting Clemson and Carolina pick their own referees? You can't do that. Tort reform. Every meal that you buy in South Carolina, due to the joint and several liability, that a big lawsuit that happened from a tragic accident in Florida, these lawyers are suing multiple restaurants and having these huge fees. South Carolina should not have to put up with that. And the tort reform has got to be front and center stage, along with our bridges and our roads. And we know where education is. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. So I would prioritize that. And we talk about growth. It's not fair to the residents of South Carolina to let everybody and anybody come into South Carolina to dilapidated road system that we use every day. Our water system is going to be a real issue. The electrical power is a big issue we've got to deal with. And on taxes, has anybody here looked?
That was my next question. I'll just let you roll into that. You're good. You know it.
People talk about anybody that says they're going to cut your taxes. I'm going to cut taxes, but I'm going to first have a forensic audit of every agency in government and tell you where the waste, fraud, and abuse is. And then I'm going to cut the taxes. Homestead exemption, as an example, needs to be raised. But the bottom line is you've got to curb the spending. That's where we get into trouble in South Carolina. We've got the income, but to let anybody and everybody here look at your electricity bill. Has it gone down or gone up? Look at your insurance rates. Has it gone down or gone up? And we're a litigious state. We've got to deal with it, folks. And I will do that. I will put that front center stage. And is it going to be easy? No, it's not going to be easy. But we've got a great state. We've got to maintain the heritage of South Carolina, the culture of South Carolina. And we've got to be very choosy on who we pick to come here. We don't have to give away the state like they did with Scout Motors. With Ralph Norman, we would if we put them here, if we let them come here, we wouldn't pay them $1.2 billion to get them here. They're going to pay us. And that's just the business part of me.
Congressman, you talked on roads that you need a back brace, neck brace, knee brace. DOT, what reforms do you think make the most sense to you from a DOT perspective? How would we streamline maybe permitting, and how would we prioritize, in my opinion, a core function of government, which is roads and bridges?
The reason roads and bridges have not been maintained, it's just not been a sexy issue, and people have thrown money at the Department of Transportation. That's like having a car that's the valves are knocking, the smoke's coming out of the front and the back. It goes in reverse when you put it in drive and say, oh, we're going to put nicer oil and a higher octane gas. No, we've got to take a look at the Department of Transportation, each of the agencies. We will get the money for that, and we will have a maintenance plan in place. Every time a snow comes in South Carolina, I dread it. We built roads and bridges. The salt that goes on asphalt, folks, it tears roads up. So I'll look at each of the agencies and see where the bureaucratic overload is, and I'll deal with it. And after we do that, we'll get the money for it. It's $24,000 per road mile. North Carolina's about 42. Georgia's about 40, about the same. But it's not just throwing money at it. We've done the same thing with education. We haven't demanded accountability with that. We throw the money at it and expect a different result. It doesn't work that way.
Do you So the General Assembly recently passed a resolution that named 73 after President Trump. He campaigned on it when he first ran. Do you support the completion of 73, and how, as governor, would you help to make that a reality?
First of all, the naming of 73 Donald Trump Interstate is a great name. It's rightfully so. There's no one that's done more for the business community, for South Carolina, or really the nation than Donald Trump. So yes, I support that. Finishing it, I assume the money's already been allocated for it. What I will do as governor is look at where the main arteries are that are blocked up and look at alternative sources. You get right-of-ways ahead of when you actually need the roads. And I'll put a plan in place to look at that and not be behind the wheel when we have to buy right-of-ways on a rush. And we can decide and know now which are the bad intersections that are just, they're traffic jams now. 526 and 26 is one of the worst in the state for hours spent on waiting.
Ralph, should South Carolina continue to be a law and order state? And what would you as governor do to strengthen that, to make sure that we're cracking down on violent gangs, fentanyl in our communities, repeat offenders? How would a Governor Norman approach law and order in South Carolina?
What a Governor Norman will do is, and it starts with the selection of judges. This General Assembly, this last term, or it's ending in about a month, they put up a liberal circuit court judge. 2 years before, they did the same thing. Liberal. We've got 88 Republicans and 36 Democrats. That shouldn't happen in a supposedly conservative-run General Assembly. Senate has got supermajority as well. First of all, you ban sanctuary cities. You call out rogue judges and try to get rid of them if you can. We have got a real issue with Muslims, Sharia law. One of the first things I will do is show a documentary that members of Congress saw before I left last week, and it'll scare you to death what the Muslim community is doing. We have a mosque in York County. Look, it's a cult. It's evil, and we can't stand them in South Carolina. I'm going to, with our law enforcement 287G program that allows our highway patrols to take a course and arrest illegals, that ought to be done. Each sheriff would gladly, and I think most law enforcement will want to do that anyway.
And even, I guess maybe to the extent that they don't, that could be a mechanism of state government too, right?
Right.
What, from a perspective of energy, obviously we talked about this a little bit ago. People's electric bills, have they gone up or down? They gone up. They're way up, somebody said. So they're up. We've got VC summer, which could be a bright spot for South Carolina. How does South Carolina and the next governor embrace maybe a nuclear or an energy renaissance that would make life a little bit more affordable in South Carolina?
First of all, on VC summer, very few people know that Santee Cooper's in debt $9 billion. Guess who's going to pay that? The 2.2 ratepayers. I didn't sign they sent up a bill that they wanted us to get more money for them. Look, Santee Cooper has got to have an audit done on it. You got to get the politicians out of so many areas and look at the record. $9 billion in debt. One of the candidates running for governor has been on the board. He said zero about it. And you got to stop that. So I'm for fossil fuels. We've got a Epstein, not the pervert, but Epstein, who is an expert in energy. And he has agreed to come down. He has nothing to gain to say whether VC summer is good, bad, or indifferent. He's going to give me an analysis of it. And he's an expert. That's who you call in to solve, which should be a basic function of government. Your rates have not gone down. I had a woodmaker. He was 75 years old, call me. He said, Norman, I've got a small shed, less than 1,000 square feet, and my utility bill's over $120 a month. I said, well, look at your per kilowatt, but look at the base meter rate charge. There's other charges that they have on it. All that to say is a function of government is to provide electricity. Those coming in here, you don't, at the stage we are now, you don't give it away if like the AI companies and other people that are wanting to come here, companies, they're going to have to factor in paying a portion of, if not all of the energy costs. We don't give the state away.
Ralph, what from a stylistic perspective, I think we've heard it all a little bit tonight. What's your style in if you were to become governor in leading, working with the General Assembly? We've had prior governors that have gone toe-to-toe and fought with the General Assembly. We've had some that have worked very well with. What's your style if there was a Governor Norman?
I don't know whether you've seen my ads, folks, but it's, the State House has got corruption, it's got waste, fraud, and abuse. And so we're going to root that out. I had a legislator who was a friend of mine. He called me, and he said, "You call me a crook." I said, "If the shoe fits, wear it. I don't like your voting record. You're voting, look, last 10 years we've doubled the cost of government. Our electric rates are through the roof. Our insurance rates, I mean, you hadn't done anything," and I told him this. I said, "You haven't done anything to rein that in to use your voice." And it was, but I will challenge the General Assembly, but it should not even, common sense is common sense to me. And if I want to help, if legislators want to help the people of South Carolina, they will get affordable electric rates. They will get the frivolous lawsuits and the way we select judges, have a way to let the people pick the judges, but make that front and center stage. And on if they will vote to really change the Department of Transportation and put things in place that the money is actually getting to asphalt and gravel and actually building the roads, we don't have time to waste to let politicians do that. You need people that have done it. And what I've been so fortunate on, the people have called me that have been successful in the business arena, the paving of roads and streets, other people, and have wanted to will come to work with us to fill our boards and commissions. And if, my lieutenant governor, it's not going to be a useless position. It's not going to be one of just blowing bubbles and kissing babies. They're going to be my road czar and bridge czar. And to me, that's just, you put people with tasks, you make sure that the talent that they were successful as, not what they said, but what they put them in great positions. And we can make a difference in South Carolina.
Congressman, shifting before the very divisive lightning round, I want to talk about education in South Carolina. Obviously, you and I served in the General Assembly together. You supported expanded parental choice, school choice for students. I think you've done so at the federal level, obviously, with your vote on the big, beautiful bill. What should the next step for education reform in South Carolina look like, and how would you go about implementing that?
Well, again, look at the statistics. You've got right at 470,000 children that go to public schools, and you got some good public schools. But you've got about 17.5% are homeschooled, private schooled, and it's the public schools are failing the next generation of students. We cannot let that happen. You got to have accountability, and you have to make sure that teachers are held accountable. I believe in merit-based pay. I believe in choice in education. I did support the choice, and parents ought to make that decision. And so I'm excited about focusing on the things that will matter with education, and I put it in the same bucket that I put roads and bridges. We cannot afford to let it go, continue to do what we have done and expect a different result, because it's not just happening, and it's not just throwing more money at it.
Congressman, when you were in the General Assembly, even now, South Carolina Republicans care deeply about life. They care about parental choice, parental rights, religious liberty, protecting their kids. What makes you the kind of leader that voters could count on to be a firm leader for our faith-based community?
Well, again, if you look at my record of votes, I've supported the faith-based community. I've supported parental choice. I stood with the frontline doctors. We shut South Carolina down during COVID, during the Norman administration. That ain't going to happen. We're not doing that. We're not shutting this state down. But, we've got to put the parents back in charge, and we've got to call out the schools that are doing it right. And I'm visiting, there's a school in Charleston, Meeting Street Academy, that I visited. They're doing it right. You had teachers who were getting out of the profession that are now back in it. But you'll set the standards and you call out the wokeness. My grandson, all my 17 grandchildren went to public schools. And he sent me a picture, sent me a video of his teacher She was playing TikTok games. Should have been teaching him. Now, you can't put up with that, and you've got to make an example of the ones that are not doing the job. We cannot afford to lose our generation of future leaders, and it starts with education, and it starts with putting reading, writing, and arithmetic, the basics, and I will put that front and center stage.
What's your favorite caffeinated beverage?
Coffee.
Coffee.
I can't do. I'm glad alcohol is not like my love of coffee. I love coffee and black coffee.
If you're ordering barbecue, Ralph, is it going to be vinegar-based, mustard-based, and we have a contingent of ketchup-based right here on the front row?
Vinegar base.
All right. On game day, the South Carolina Gamecocks or the Clemson Tigers? Who are you pulling for?
When Clemson and Carolina play, I pull for Carolina. My son-in-law's brother was a quarterback behind Tannehill. Now, a lot of my nieces and nephews go to Clemson. I've got my granddaughter coming to Carolina, 2 of them, I think. I got 2 at the Citadel, and I had one at the Citadel now. But no, I pull for both Clemson and Carolina. But when they both play, I'm gonna pull for Carolina.
So if the Norman family is vacationing in South Carolina, what's your favorite vacation spot in
Charleston.
our state? Charleston. And the last question, if Congressman Norman becomes Governor Norman, what's your first act as governor in January of 2027?
Everything I'm telling y'all tonight, term limit bill, judicial reform, roads and bridges, electrical grid, putting some accountability in that. Let the studies show us where to go. And I'm going to put these, not only put these bills up, in my state of the state, I will tell you everything we're doing that I'm telling you tonight. And I will put on when we get the numbers back, when we audit each of the agencies, I'm going to put where the things that should not have been funded, the gummy bear museums, I'm going to put that out there. The giveaway with Scout, I will put that out there. The $1 billion they found last year, I'm going to put that out there. And we'll have a good relationship with the General Assembly, but it's going to be contentious probably at first, but I don't mind that if it's for the betterment of the people of South Carolina. I feel for that nurse single mom who is struggling to make ends meet, or that carpenter. Everybody in South Carolina has got an affordability crisis here. The dollar just doesn't go as far. I will cut regulations. I will go to the businesses and ask, if you were to come to South Carolina again, what regulations would you say that we need to cut? And I'm going to take it to you. I will use the veto, the line item veto, but more importantly, these things I'm telling you, I will come to your community, your town, and I'll say, look, this is what we're trying to do, and this is the person that's stopping it that represents you, and take it up with them. I will get their list of donors, and I will call them. I'm going to take an active role with this. I love this state too much. I ain't going anywhere. Our business was here, children educated here, and we're going to make this state the greatest that it can be. We cannot afford to lose South Carolina, and we won't do it under Norman administration.
Y'all, that's a wrap. Everyone give Congressman Norman a round of applause, and thank you for coming, sir. Now we're at the end of the program where I decide to sing karaoke. No, I'm kidding. I really want to thank you guys for being here. Did y'all find that informative and good? Did y'all appreciate that? And I'm really impressed, too. Like, maybe it was the threat of alligators that really made y'all calm down a little bit. I know Mark over here, he was ready to be a rabble-rouser, but really appreciate the dialogue up here. Is any one of these candidates better than the Democrat alternative for South Carolina? Do y'all agree with that? Yeah? All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you being part of the discussion, part of the